Yes, that's right. So the Orthodox Jewish community, unbelievable rate of, we've had 2 or 3 friends who, we have a friend who's a rabbi in Toronto, gave a kidney last year, almost died by the way, had serious bleeding that night, they had to re-operate to stop the bleeding, gave a kidney. We have a friend in Brooklyn who just got a kidney, and he gave it to a stranger. We have a friend in Brooklyn who just received a kidney from someone in Williamsburg, from a stranger.
Renewal did 3,000 kidneys.
Amazing, yeah. We have a friend in Toronto whose wife just gave a kidney to someone without, so we, this is happening all the time. A mother of 7 children came to me recently, I want to give a kidney. I said, let's just think about this, But the reason is because we rule that giving a kidney today is so safe that it's clearly allowed. It is risky enough that you're not obliged. So we can tell you that you're obliged to give blood if someone needs your blood, because there's no risk and it's a replenished commodity. A kidney,
right? And you're obligated then.
Your obligation, yes.
Yeah.
We couldn't hold you down physically, but to give a bone marrow, a little bit more debatable. A little bit more, you get a drug to stimulate the bone marrow, it's a bit less comfortable. But to give a kidney is clearly, the risk is well under 1% of serious complications of giving a kidney. In fact, ironically and amazingly, kidney donors live longer and more healthy than people who don't give kidneys. What's the reason? They're very highly selected. Kidney donors have been through blood pressure checks and all kind of stuff. So if you're accepted to give a kidney, you're probably very healthy in the first place. And the risk of complications is very low. But there is a risk. And so we cannot say to people, it's safe enough that you're obliged to, but we can say it's 100% permitted. And Rav Asher Weiss says it's an incredible thing to do, and he almost put his tears to his eyes when he talks about it, because people are giving kidneys all the time. There are other problems with giving kidneys, other than the risk. One of them is very interesting, and that is you need consent. So we say, well, look, it's safe enough that you can consent. It's risky enough that you can say you don't want to. It's up to you. Well, how do you get meaningful consent without knowing that the person is acting under duress? Here's a 4-year-old boy died of kidney failure. His 18-year-old sister matches. And the family all say to her, would you like to save your brother's life? How can she say no? There's a real problem of psychological duress. What about the person who doesn't want to do it, but under the family's coercive emotional pressure, they find it impossible to say no, right? This is a real problem. So I'll tell you how it's handled. The first is that in non-Jewish donation programs, they always have a very careful vetting of the people who come forward. I have a friend in London who's head of a psychiatry trust, happens to be a Jewish psychiatrist, very traditional Jew, and he is the head of Guy's Hospital Trust in London. His job is interviewing it's Dr. Alistair Santos, you know who that is? He's the brother-in-law of Ashley Fulton. Yeah. So his job is to interview the prospective donors to find out why they're agreeing to give kidneys, and he tells me amazing things. Many people come forward and say, Rama, they say, doctor, I've done something terrible in my life. No one knows about it. I want to expiate this crime or sin. I want to give a kidney and save somebody's life. Is that a valid motivation? Some people say, doctor, I've never done anything good in my life at all, ever. I want to die knowing I did one good thing and saved somebody's life. That's why I want to give it. These all kind of motivations. What's considered emotionally normal and balanced, and what's considered not, right? And there can be extreme examples. I'll give you one. There was a family in Israel that had a young child dying of kidney failure. The mother gave a kidney, it was rejected. They tried a second transplant from another family, rejected again. They did a third transplant to this child, which was rejected again. And there was no hope for the child. And his 18-year-old sister matched. Okay? The parents went to Rav Zilberstein and they said, Rama, are we allowed to put emotional pressure on our daughter to give a kidney? Would we be transgressing lo tachmod? Lo sachmod means when I put emotional pressure on you to do something that you don't want to do. Let's say I want something of yours, I embarrass you, I pressurize you in front of your guests, right? Until you agree to give it or sell it to me. There's no theft because you agreed, but it was unwilling. By the way, this doesn't apply in business negotiation. Right? If you negotiate with someone, they sell an item for a price much less than they wanted to, that's negotiation, that's fine. They've made a decision that they're willing to do that. The test is, would they back out if they could? So someone sells their home to you or a business for a price that they accept, they need the cash, they wouldn't back out. But if I put you under pressure when people are around, and secretly, if they wouldn't have been there, you wouldn't have done it, I'm guilty of one of the 10 commandments, right? Transgressing one of the 10 commandments. So they said to him, Rama, are we guilty of transgressing lo tachmod if we pressurize our daughter to give a kidney? Before I tell you what he said, it's very interesting that he himself was in a situation involving that mitzvah. He was standing in a shop in Bnei Brak that sells very expensive silver. And a very high-ranking senior Israeli army officer came in with his wife in full uniform, completely chiloni, went up to the storekeeper. They bought an expensive piece of silver, $2,000 or 2,000 shekels. And in true Middle Eastern fashion, the soldier said to the storekeeper, I'll give you 1,500. And the man said, fine. Did the deal, wrapped it up, walked out the shop. When they reached the door, Rabbi Zilberstein stood in his way. Classic Israeli confrontation. You're talking about a completely secular, high-ranking Israeli and a very rabbinic. I'm talking about a long black frock and payas, and no question. And switching from Yiddish to Hebrew, he said to the soldier, you just transgressed one of the 10 commandments. Soldier said, Rabbi, what are you talking about? He said, he gave you a discount that I know this man. He never gives discounts like that. You know why I gave it? Because of your rank. He knows that one day you'll be the Minister of Finance or something. You don't want. He gave you a discount that is not normal for him. That's considered pulling rank. It's emotional duress. Lo tachmod. I think that's a remarkable claim. I mean, the soldier said to his wife, please wait here. He went back and he said to me, I want to give you another 500. I'm not sure which of those two men to admire more, right? The storekeeper said, forget about it, I read it. He took out his checkbook, he insisted on, he wanted to be clean, and he walked out of the shop paying the full price because of what the rabbi told him. Anyway, that's the rabbi the family asked, are we allowed to coerce our daughter? He said,
on which love? On what?
On the kidney.
The kidney.
No.
Can we
What about Al-Tam
Okay, I'll come to it in a moment. But he said like this, when it comes to coveting, Lo Tachmod, there's no problem at all pressurizing. There may be many other issues, but Lo Tachmod only applies when I embarrass you to do something. For me, when I embarrass you or pressurize you to save somebody else's life, got nothing to do with Lo Tachmod. The family said to their daughter, if you give your kidney to your brother, we'll give you our apartment.
Mm.
Fear being an 18-year-old young lady with one kidney may be a little less marriageable than normal, but if she comes with a nice big Bnei Brak apartment attached, that would offset the problem. Yeah. And so that's what the parents did. Is that fair or not? I don't know. The same rabbi once ruled that you may not offer money for a kidney to people under age 20. That's what he said. The Gemara says the heart of children is close to money. Some of us never outgrow that. Mm-hmm. But if you're under 20, the Gemara says you don't make balanced judgments about money. And therefore, he once ruled, if you're dealing with an adult, you could offer money. There's a whole discussion about how that works. But a person under 20, if you're 14 years old and somebody offers you $50,000, it's a lot of chewing gum, or cocaine, whatever they're into these days. And therefore, he said, how would that work when they're giving an apartment? I don't know. So, those are some of the considerations when it comes to giving a kidney. But we rule that it's definitely safe enough. Giving half a liver, which was quite popular until it still is done, but it's much more risky than giving a kidney. In fact, I spoke to the ethics committee at Mount Sinai Hospital a couple of years ago, and it was a big traumatic time because there were two Jewish men, one 54 years old, one 56. The 54-year-old was a physician. His 56-year-old brother gave half a liver, saved his brother's life, and died 4 days later. He had an overwhelming infection, and they couldn't control it. And after giving a liver lobe to his brother, he died. So there was a big, shake-up in the community. But giving a liver lobe is probably risky enough that you'd be discouraged from doing it. And giving a lung or a lung lobe has pretty much stopped now, right? They used to take a parent giving a lung to a cystic fibrosis child, let's say, to save the child. But the morbidity of living with one lung having been removed is too. And nowadays, non-living donors are accepted so well that they're not taking lungs anymore. So the classic today is kidneys. And that's certainly acceptable and highly praised, and absolutely you're fully free to do that because the risk is, yeah.
I thought that women who want to give a kidney should be done having their children.
So that's a good idea, yes.
So
I'm
that
not aware that it's 100%.
That wasn't considered by Rob Zilberstein and this 18-year-old girl that,
Right.
She's not married.
Yeah.
She'll have an apartment.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But
No,
if she goes and has kids, what
Right.
are the chances?
No, it's not a hard and fast rule. In fact, people with one kidney do absolutely fine. I mean, they do fine. The only problem is if you have an injury to the remaining kidney later, right, or infection.
Right.
So, that's not an absolute rule at all.
Oh, it is.
And,
Okay.
And I can quote you many cases. There was a case of an 11-year-old girl in American non-Jewish family, and with a 4-year-old brother again. the girl was willing to give her kidney, and the court would not allow it.
Oh, wow.
11
Because
years
she's
old.
underage.
She's underage, right? So the family was willing, the girl was willing, and the court said, we don't, the hospital took her to court. They said, absolutely not. She's underage, she cannot give consent. They took her to the Supreme Court, which overturned the ruling. Why? Because the surgical team brought evidence that if she didn't give her kidney, the psychological trauma she'd suffer later, knowing that her brother died, and she would be more risk to her well-being than giving her kidney. Now, whether we'd accept that halachically, I don't know. And there are many cases like that. One was a case about a few years ago where there was a Jewish family, where there was a Jewish man. He was an adult who was mentally completely incompetent, needed 24/7 care, and he was cared for by a young 24-year-old student who cared for, caregiver who cared for him. And according to all the professional opinions, the older man was kept alive. He would get pressure sores if he wasn't moved. He really needed expert care. And this young man was caring for him to the level that they were sure, basically his committed care was keeping him alive. Well, you can guess what happened. The young fellow needed a kidney, and the older man matched perfectly, but he couldn't give consent. He was completely mentally, he could not give consent. So they took it to court and argued, we should take his kidney without consent. Why? Because it's for his benefit. Because by saving the life of the caregiver, he keeps him alive, right? Now, I don't know whether we'd accept that halachically, but that's what they said. So, I don't know what happened. No, I don't know what happened. Anyway, these are some of the, yeah.
Last night you told me that the ventilator situation, you can't take the 98-year-old guy off.
That's killing someone directly.
Right?
Yes.
But what if two people come to a small town that has one ventilator?
Yes.
There's a bad car accident?
Yes.
You have a 17-year-old and a 90-year-old?
Right.
How does the doctor make a decision with the one ventilator?
Okay, so with your permission, since it's after 7:15, can we save that for the next talk, and I'll tell you the criteria. It's a long, full discussion. How do we?
We had that in COVID.
Yes. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
So we'll talk about how you save lives when you can only save one. Yeah. Age, by the way, is a very soft criterion. Most people agree young before old, but it's really
Is Talmud Chacham and Levium and Kohanim, does that play into?
Again, there's a Gemara in Horios that says the one who has more mitzvahs. So Cohen before Levi, Levi before Israel. We actually don't rule according to that, but there is such an opinion. Yes, we have much more important criteria. Yeah.
I just wanted to share that in my community in Philadelphia, a mother, a Russian Baal Teshuva mother of 6 kids, gave half of her liver, and it was revolutionary because she saved 3 lives. She gave half of her liver to a boy who had some kind of illness, and he gave his entire liver to 2 more recipients. So she
How would they
saved.
work? How would
It's
they
like
work?
all over journals, and she's part of.
They're all alive?
Of
How
course.
would they use his liver if it was diseased?
It was not diseased.
But then
It,
why
something was, his body was rejecting it. It was something about him with his own liver, and that entire liver. There are many articles written about it, and so
Okay,
she
sounds a
alone
little-
saved
sounds
3
a little-
lives.
Sounds a little weird medically, but
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the
I'll
details.
be happy to share. But
Yeah.
one woman alone saved
Okay.
3 lives with giving half of her liver.
No, half a liver. A liver lobe. You can give a lobe of it.
Like
Liver
the
regenerates very well.
itself?
The logic of giving a liver is if you give part of your liver, the remaining liver grows rapidly too. Yeah. Okay, so Rabbi Hirsch, we are.